bonus and extra episode number 2. This is the second round of the Infectious Grove Podcast album tournament, which we explained last time. If you listen to the first one, Kyle and I picked 8 albums each that we like, and so this is very unscientific. This is just something we're doing to have fun, to give people extra content right now. So each week we're going to defend one album apiece, and Michelle will hear both sides of the argument. She has listened to both records, and then she will make a final ruling, and one album will pass on in the tournament. Last week, in the first round, we had Aerosmith versus Carole King, with Carole King's Tapestry album coming out the winner. So that album is safe until episode 9. This week's matchup is pretty interesting, to say the least. It's an album that's brand spanking new against an album that's back from the 80s. So we have Eminem's Music to be Murdered By, which came out in January of this year, surprise release actually, and versus Guns N' Roses' first album, Appetite for Destruction, which came out all the way back in 1987. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Kyle, talk to us about Music to be Murdered By.
Oh man, it's one of my favorite Eminem albums to date. One of the reasons I like it so much is because of it being a surprise. We were stuck with some not so great Eminem for a while there, and all of a sudden this album came out, and boom, we were back to what I feel is like the old Eminem, like where he didn't give a shit. He was going to say whatever he wanted to say. He didn't care who he offended. He was back to wanting to cause controversy, which is almost his entire career is built off of that. So
yeah, he definitely went through a dip there. I think everybody that I know, including and especially friend of the show Joe, doesn't like Relapse, and then a couple of things that came after that. So he definitely took a dip. What's some of your favorite tracks off of this new one?
I don't even know if I have. The only one I'm really not a huge fan of is the song that has Young M.A. on it, which I don't remember the title of. But it just feels out of place to me as far as being the flow of the entire album. It doesn't feel like it belongs on the album.
Sure. The very first track?
Yes.
The unaccommodating.
So I'll give you some of my thoughts on it here, because I famously, so far, if you listen to the podcast so far, I hadn't got around to listening to this entire album yet. So obviously I made a focus to do that by the time we recorded this. And my opinion on the record is, when it's strong, it's strong. I would agree with when the strong tracks are as good or better than anything Eminem's done previously. However, for me, there were a lot of misses on the record. There were a lot more than one track that don't quite go with it. Some of the ones I noted were In Too Deep, Little Engine, Y'all Gonna Learn. I think that might be the one you were talking about. I'm not sure. But and Yeah, I didn't like that very much. And for an album that's around 60 minutes, that's a whole lot of misses for me. 1, 2, 3, 4 tracks for an album that's around 60 minutes. That's a whole lot of misses, at least for me. But the tracks that were strong, I thought were very, very, very strong. Like I say, that's 4 out of, I'm not even actually sure how many tracks there are. I did make sure to look at the length of it, and I know it's just over 60 minutes long. So, but this is your time, Kyle. Talk it up. What else is there to like about the record?
It's one of the few records that I feel that I should say a few rap records that I could listen to all the way through. I literally will just start at 1, even though it's my least favorite song on the album. I start at 1, and I can literally just listen to the entire thing all the way through. And I don't know. I got the feeling that when I listened to that record the first time, is the same kind of feeling I got when the Marshall Mathers LP came out. Or I liked the Kamikaze album. A lot of people did not like that album, but I thought that he was getting on track coming back to what we all knew him to be previously. And then he went off the radar for a while and came back with Music to be Murdered By. And I don't know. It's just an album. And I liked it not only because it was a surprise and no one really knew what was happening, but it's also a bit of a concept album, even though kind of, I guess, because of the whole Alfred Hitchcock thing.
Sure. I liked Kamikaze myself as well. And like I say, with this record, when he's on, I totally get what you're saying. It does remind me of classic Eminem. However, there were too many misses on it for me. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad record by any stretch, and it's not a bad Eminem album. I mean, it's not, Relapse territory, which again, everybody, friend of the show especially, doesn't like Relapse, but it's not at all a bad record by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, there were not enough of the stronger tracks to keep carrying it. Now, Michelle, I know last week you made a bunch of notes on each one. Do you want to share your notes on Eminem now, or do you want me to make a case for Appetite and then do your notes for both?
I would like to do all of my notes at the end.
Okay, cool. Well, we can do that now and going forward. So for me, with Appetite for Destruction, I mean, it's a monster. It's considered by many to be the greatest rock debut record ever made. For me, that as soon as you put that record on and straight through, it sounds like Los Angeles in 1987. Jungle, in my opinion, is in the discussion for best opening track of all time. Like, it's up there with, What You Want to Be Starting Something and It Smells Like Teen Spirit, that territory as far as opening tracks. And the record just doesn't let up from there. It's So Easy, Night Train, Mr. Brownstone, like everything all in a row just is a picture of what 1987 Los Angeles sounded like and where the mind frame of all 5 members of the band was at that time. By the time you reach the middle of the record, I think Paradise City is just an insane track to put in the middle of the record. It really shows off like what they're capable of as far as songwriting goes, like with the changes in the bridge and the outro and everything. Sweet Child of Mine is easily one of the biggest pop rock songs of all time. Like, it's just a monster single that every man, woman, and child on earth knows. Sweet Child of Mine, the song structure there is just incredible. The misses for me on the record come in the form of Think About You and Anything Goes. Think About You, in my opinion, is the worst lyrics Axl's ever written. They're just, or I don't even know actually if it was Axl or Izzy that wrote the lyrics, but I just, near the end of the song, he says Think About You, and I want to make sure I don't overestimate this, but I think he says it about 7,000 times. If you're just out of things to say at that point, just don't keep saying Think About You over and over, and then Anything Goes for me is a big miss because it's very sophomoric lyrically compared to the rest of the record. Like, when you take a song like Jungle, which is literally being like, don't come to Los Angeles or we're going to fuck you up. And then 6 or 7 songs later, you have this sophomore Britney Fox trickster sounding song about, sex is great. That's a bummer for me. It's a big miss on the record. The song You're Crazy, there's actually a much better version of that song that's a more laid back acoustic version of it on the album after this. But the version that's on Appetite fits the attitude and style of Appetite, so I'm okay with it. Like, I like the other version of You're Crazy better, but when I'm listening to Appetite, it makes sense that version is on there. So, and then as far as how the record rounds out, Rocket Queen, I think, is a brilliant closer. It really allows the band to stretch out, kind of like Paradise City did at the midpoint. It shows, again, what they're capable of, like when it really reaches the crescendo at the end, and it goes into like the completely different groove than the song is in the album. The album as a whole, and the song in particular, has had up till that point where it shifts gears with the I See You Standing, it goes into that whole melodic breakdown, and then the album really just leaves you, kind of like drifts off at the very end of that cut. I like I say, I think for a band to come out with that strong of an album on their first try, it's not any surprise that band followed up that record with something completely different in GNR Lies, and then a 30-track monster with Use Your Illusion. So that's really the best case I can make for it. I'm certain that the GNR online community is extremely passionate, and I'm certain that many, many people are like, but you didn't say this, and you didn't say this. But I feel like I made as strong of a concise case as I can for Appetite for Destruction. So having said that, what do you want to roll back to Eminem and start with your thoughts, Michelle?
Sure. So I will say, going into this, I had listened to Eminem Music to Be Murdered By several times, and the GNR Appetite for Destruction, I've heard all or most of the songs, but just not from a front to back sort of standpoint where sit down and listen to a record.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt. I was wondering how that would affect your review of the songs, because like, I'm certain you've heard Sweet Child of Mine a million times in your life, but you've never actually heard it as track 9 in a row of that record. You know what I mean? Right. So I was curious about that.
Going into it, like, I had to put more effort into the GNR, like, to be like, I already had mental notes for Eminem. Like, I've just been listening to it since it came out. And so, like, I already knew. So for Eminem, the biggest downfall that I have with this record, which is most of Eminem's records to begin with, is I'm not a fan of the skits. I'm not a fan of the outros. I'm not a fan of the lead ups and the funny and the prank calls on his other records. Like, it's not my jam. I didn't come here for a comedy album. Like, just play the music. So
that's so funny. It's because I
feel like a lot of people are going to disagree with you about that.
Well, I don't. I was going to say I wouldn't say that that's a drawing point to a lot of records, a lot of rap records in particular, but that is a very popular part of a lot of rap records. Like, going back to like the $20 Sack Pyramid on the Chronic, and the one on the Red Light District by Luda that we love, and the Eminem one, like the old Paul Berman skits and Ken Kniff and all that. So it's just funny that that's like you're probably one of a handful of people who has rolled rolling their eyes when that happens, whereas everybody else is like, oh, here it comes, So it's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of the many things. If you look at the Facebook page and the interaction that we're getting on these episodes, like you being the wild card is the interesting thing about this, and that's funny. You go and point out like one big thing that you don't like about the record that like everybody else would like,
It's almost to the point where like it makes me mad when they come on. I don't even know. I feel like it interrupts the groove of the record.
I'm so sorry. Side note, I don't mean to interrupt you, but when I put it on today, I didn't realize that I had Spotify on shuffle. So it played the first track of the record, and then like 3 or 4 tracks later, it played a skit, and then something that was, and I was like, well, that's the most disjointed changeover from a skit I've ever heard, and then I realized, I was like, wait a minute. So I had to listen. I was actually didn't know how many songs I had listened to, so I went back and took it off shuffle and listened to it straight through again, and it made more sense.
Yeah, that'll get you. Overall, this record, I love it. There's a couple songs on there that I'm not a huge fan of, but it doesn't ruin the record for me. Like I don't skip it when it comes on. Like I let it play. There's other songs on the record that are my jam. Godzilla, this is a single on it, and from the second I heard it, I was like, yes, like this is for me. I also got introduced to Anderson .Paak. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah,
he's on that song. Yeah, he's on that song "Lock It Up." I love that song, and I love him on that song. To the point where it like almost makes me want to research other things he's done.
Close but no cigar, Anderson .Paak.
Totally do that.
So close, Anderson .Paak.
I just haven't yet.
We need to make sure to hashtag him in this episode on the off chance that he'll see the tweet and be like, you need to know that you came so close to Michelle Caring.
So close. I also love that Skylar Gray's on it again, and that he teams up with Ed Sheeran again. I feel like those are always solid cut with Eminem. The Darkness about the Las Vegas shooting gives me chills when I listen to it.
See, and that was one of the ones that I was like, dude, when you're on. Yeah. And Darkness is absolutely one of those tracks.
Yeah. So I know it does, like I said, the biggest downfall for any Eminem record, not even just this one, is the skits. And I knew that going into it. But other than that, there's not really a song on there where I automatically skip it, which if anybody's listened to, is it on Aim and Ignite, the fun song?
Which one?
It is. It Gets Better.
No, that's on Some Nights. It's the only bad song on Some Nights.
Yeah, so Some Nights is a fire record from top to bottom except for It Gets Better, and it literally makes me angry when it comes on. Like I have to run across the room and skip the song.
Not only because it's a bad song, but the title of the song is a lie. It does not get better.
Yeah, it does not get better.
At any point in that song. From the top of that song to the end, it never gets better. It just starts out bad and goes from there.
It gets better when it ends.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, there you go. There you go.
So there's not any of those songs on here that I'm like, nope, skip. Like I've very often put this record on from front to back and have had no problems. Like, and that says a lot for me because I usually get bored really easily with putting on a whole album by an artist. I usually get bored in the middle of it.
Well, you're going to do it a whole lot during this tournament, that's for sure.
What about Stepdad?
Stepdad is, while it's not my favorite, I don't find myself skipping it when it comes on, except for the skit, which I don't care for. I would say Stepdad is probably my least favorite song on the record. And also, are you trying to get me to not pick your record?
No, I just know that you mentioned.
He's like, I heard you say you didn't like that song.
No, because I like that song a lot. And you mentioned in the past, I can't listen to that song. And I'm like, well, I wanted to know why.
It's not that I can't listen to it. It's just you love it so much, and I just don't see what there is that is so phenomenal about that one track. I guess I should say that. And I did write down my favorite line, which is in Accommodating. Not my favorite line on the record. It was one that stood out to me today, and like I never heard it before. Like I heard it, but I never heard it, which is on Accommodating, which is the one you don't like. He says, "Call us Liquid Plumber because even Dre know."
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you explaining that for the rest of us as if we didn't understand it the way you didn't.
I ran it back like 3 times.
Let me rephrase what I said earlier. The part that I don't like about that song is Young M.A.'s part. And I'm a fan of hers individually, but on that song, she does not fit into what's happening. And then as soon as he gets on it, it becomes a way better song. Yeah,
I do agree with that. The first time I listened to it, I was like, what is happening? Is this just more of the introduction? And then he comes on, and now I've learned to like it. It's by far not my favorite, but I learned to like it overall.
Gotcha. What kind of notes do you have for Appetite?
So this being my first front to back, and I really did enjoy it. There were a couple songs on there that was not my jam, but overall, I was actually surprised that the majority of the songs that I do know from Guns N' Roses that I like are all on the same record. Also, there's a song with my name on it. So
yeah, it's not a happy song though. It's not a very not a very complimentary song toward. Now, to my knowledge, it's not about you, Michelle, but oh man, it's not a good person.
I mean, I choose to overlook that.
Sure.
I mean, anything with my name in it is good by me.
It's not. It's not exactly the Beatles singing, Michelle. That's for sure.
It is not. I did notice that they come swinging with the first song, "Welcome to the Jungle." It just is like, and I did not know this, which I'm sure Russ has told me 1,000 times. I did not know. He said this is their debut album.
Huh?
Yeah, I didn't really realize that.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, for that to be the first thing you hear from this band is, like, epic.
Yeah, I
in my
mean,
opinion.
it turned the whole quote-unquote hair band industry on its ear. Like, to this day, if you talk to anybody and say, you know, is GNR a hair band? Like, people will cut you because Appetite is, like, an entire step above, like, that whole, what that genre is perceived to be.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably a lot of people listening to this that are like, well, those two records have nothing at all in common with one another, which isn't true because at one time, Axl Rose and Eminem were both very, very, like, anti the man, like, you know, I don't care who I offend, like, fuck you all, like, that kind of thing. And
absolutely.
They both entered the music industry with huge smash records. We're not talking about Eminem's The Slim Shady LP, but in the same token, he came and changed rap forever with that album.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they did the same thing with theirs.
Yeah, and it just gets better from there because it does get better. It's so easy. And Night Train, Out to Get Me is not my jam, but Mr. Brownstone, and then
I didn't mention that, but Out to Get Me is not really my jam either. That's funny.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for key changes, and I'm sure you didn't listen like this intently, but there's a sweet ass key change in that song specifically for the solo, and then it goes back. I've seen them do that song many times live, and literally my ears perk up for that key change, and then I'm like, we're back to Out to Get Me. But it's a big fan favorite. People love that song. So anyways,
really?
coming out of Out to Get Me goes into what, Paradise City next?
Mr. Brownstone.
Oh, that's
but
right.
What I was going to say about Out to Get Me, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, because I was like, I know all these songs. So I'm like, Welcome to the Jungle, yes. It's So Easy, yes. Night Train, yes. And then I'm like, I don't know this song. Oh, Mr. Brownstone, yes. Paradise City, yes. So I don't know if it was just an interruption for my brain was like, no, skip this. Like, you don't know this song, because like there's the majority of this record I know. And then Paradise City is by far my favorite song on this record.
Such a jam.
Probably my favorite GNR song of all time, I think.
Well, you're in luck if you ever go see them again, because they close with it every single time they play ever. So you'll definitely.
I'm going to be awake until the finale.
They come on time now. Damn. Anyways, go on.
I will say the second half of the record was my least favorite. And by the end of it, I was like, I don't even know. And so I wasn't just like sitting there staring at the wall listening to this. I was like making notes, and I was on my phone, and I was like, I don't even know when one song ended, another song started. And I don't know. Yeah, I just saw your face.
No, it's just because, I mean, there's like wildly different songs on that half. Like Sweet Child of Mine is incredibly different than either song on either side of it.
For sure. After that, so like You're Crazy, Anything Goes, and Rocket Queen, I was just like, is this one long song? And I don't know. There was nothing that was thrilling to me enough to take notice.
Yeah. Which
is what I've been doing with when I did last week and then when I did this week, is I've been putting it on and doing other things, and then I'm like, wait, what was that? Like I run it back, like that lyric. Or when Out to Get Me came on and I was like, wait, what song is this? I don't know it. And then I looked into it, you know, like stuff like that. And then after Sweet Child of Mine, I just kind of fell off. There was nothing remarkable about the rest of the record for me.
Gotcha. Well, one out of the three of those is in my least favorite songs on the record, so I get that. What were you going to say, Kyle?
Which one was your least favorite?
Anything Goes. Sorry, okay. Kyle. She prompted me for something else. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
That's like one of my two gripes with that record is, one is a lot of it does sound very similar to me, and I kind of, like Michelle, get towards the end of the record, get lost in what song I'm listening to. And then also, what most people know of Guns N' Roses is on this album, and they have much more to offer as a band as a whole. So, like, if you ask someone to put on a Guns N' Roses song, it's going to be like one of the 5 like huge smash songs that are on this record in particular.
Not if it's me, but go on.
If
it's me, the very first GNR song I'm going to play for anybody on planet Earth ever is Better from 2008's underrated masterpiece, Chinese Democracy. But yes, 90% of Earth will put on, Jungle, Paradise, Sweet Child of Mine. Here's an interesting fact. I don't know if either of you know. 2 gigantic hits from the 2 albums later, Use Your Illusion, You Could Be Mine, what was the lead single off of Use Your Illusion, and November Rain were both written for this album and didn't make the record.
See, I could take out 2 songs from here easy and put those on here.
Now, again, the GNR online community is going to come down on my head about this, so I'm going to probably get it wrong. But when Axl formed the new lineup of GNR in 99, he had them re-record Appetite, like as an exercise in learning the album, and they cut 2 songs and they added You Could Be Mine was one of them. So like, and another interesting thing is if you look in the liner notes for Appetite for Destruction, the chorus for You Could Be Mine is printed in the liner notes for Appetite for Destruction, like at the bottom of the lyric page. It has the chorus for You Could Be Mine is with your bitch slap rapping and your cocaine tongue, you get nothing done. And that line is at the bottom of the liner notes for Appetite.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but I'm excited that they held off You Could Be Mine for the first single off of Use Your Illusion, because it's a freaking monster of a first single for those records.
Yeah. That's another song. I like You Can Be Mine and Better. For anybody who doesn't know, there was a short period of time where Russ lived at my house, and I heard a lot of Guns N' Roses.
Who knew?
With Against My Will, along with some Roger Waters.
Hold on.
Pink Floyd.
Hold on. This is a public service platform, so I just want to say you were not tied to a chair and made to listen to Guns N' Roses. It was just on in the house. Against your will makes it sound like you couldn't just go to another room or to a different level of the home or something.
It's not that big of a house.
Right, yeah.
You're going to get Russ arrested here.
I never had the sound system I have now there, so you could have easily got away from the sound system that I had there if you really wanted to.
That is true.
So, do you got any more notes on Appetite?
Well, I was just saying, I think that's why I am so familiar with it to begin with, is because of you and just our relationship and living together for a little bit, and having to hear it and having to hear you talk about it, which that sounded wrong, like that you made me listen to you talk, which is not true.
I was going to say, if you want to take another swing at that, I won't be mad at you.
Don't you mean wanting to hear about it and wanting to hear Russ talk about it?
I hear Russ preach the of Guns N' Roses. I have an affinity for that, for the album, because of that. I feel like it's not just something that is like, I feel like there's a lot of 80s rock bands where it's like, I know one song by them and that's it. It doesn't really do much for me, but this is a little bit more. But I think that's all my notes. So that's all my notes.
Yeah. Okay.
I have my scores and whatnot, but you want me to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, you've heard both sides of the argument. You've heard Michelle's thoughts on both, which means it is time to take a quick break. We'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, coming right out of that, we will get into Michelle's ruling and the reaction. I have a feeling I know how this is going to go, but we'll find out in a minute. We will be back with you in just 1 second.
Hey, I'm Lauren.
And I'm John.
And we host the Beard Al Podcast, the podcast where we talk about 2 of the greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al.
And a lot of other things. We're funny.
Yeah, that's basically what I told him to say. Good job with your script.
I listened.
Yay! But no, seriously, we try and pair a beer with a Weird Al song and talk about both things and go where the conversation takes us. It's fun, I promise. You'll like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like talking about random things as well as, fine craft beers and some wonderful craft music.
Hey, I'm Pantsless Aaron.
This is Stevie.
And I'm Augie.
And we are BFYTW, a podcast all about playing games and having fun. Our games are usually based on British panel shows and game shows, but we'll play anything that captures our attention and imagination. Why? It's right there in the title.
You'll never guess what the F stands for.
All right, we're back. You've heard all the arguments. You've heard all the adieu. And so we are going to move on to Michelle's final judgment real quick. As I always do, I want to remind everybody that we are on the social media, and the way I requested the last episode, I'm going to request again this time. If everybody would please share the show out on your social media. If you would please, let others know that you're listening to the show. It will help us out a great deal in growing our audience, and we greatly appreciate it. Later in the year, I'd love to redo this tournament with like a much bigger audience, so we can do like voting on it and things like that too. So that'd be cool. So sharing on social media, people retweeting and sharing us on their Facebook page will help us out, grow the audience, so that next year, later in the year, rather, we can do this whole thing again and involve the audience in voting and so on and so forth. So that'll be fun for us and the audience. So we would appreciate the help in growing the show. Having said that, it's time. Michelle, what is your final ruling?
Eminem.
I knew it.
Eminem.
Last week when I said what the matchup was going to be for this week, I knew it was going to be Eminem.
So I will say.
Hold on real quick. I just want to say you're about to speak to a lot of very angry Guns N' Roses fans because the online GNR community is, how do I put this as nicely as I can? Passionate. So you're about to speak to a whole lot of very angry Guns N' Roses fans, so I hope you've prepared some sort of address for them.
I did not prepare anything for them. I will say that I enjoy listening to Appetite for Destruction from top to bottom, front to back. It was definitely...
Except for the last three tracks.
Except for the last three tracks. However, I fully expected to come into it not being my jam.
I feel like, from my perspective, I sent my kid out to a fight. I know he wasn't going to win, but he did better in the fight than I thought he was going to, you know?
So I gave Eminem 7 out of 10, and I gave Appetite 5 out of 10, which I gave Aerosmith a 4 out of 10. So it's one better than Aerosmith. If that
now you're just trying to make that whole fan base mad too. All the Aerosmith fans are going to be like, "What?"
I don't want to make anybody mad. It's all because
no. I will say, and I mean this with all the love in my heart, the GNR online fan base is a special bunch. So they're gonna be real mad. Like every single time I open my GNR forum, which by the way, when I say that, just so you know, that's the name of the site is my GNR forum. Like, I don't mean my GNR forum. If you go to mygnrforum.com, that's the site. When this episode is posted on Friday, I fully expect to open my browser to something like 366 notifications every day from being tagged in this discussion about who, why, how. You said that woman was your friend, you know.
I will say you put up a good fight, and you've been preparing me for this moment since the moment I knew you, Russ. Yeah, you've been training me.
I've been trying since 2002 to get this dog ready for the fight.
Oh shit.
However, Eminem is just, except for Relapse, Eminem is just my jam in general. And I will say, if it was Kamikaze against Appetite, I bet Appetite would have won. But I feel differently than you and Kyle do. Well, you specifically about this record. I think it's just as good as Marshall Mathers LP 2. I
Sure.
Like
it's not near as good as the first one.
No, the first one is untouchable. But I just feel like it's one of the best records he's put out in a while. The last two was there one before Kamikaze? I feel like, wasn't there a weird one?
Yes, Recovery.
Yeah, that also not my jam. So
well, there was Relapse, Refill, and then Recovery.
Yeah.
Why so many?
Well,
anyways,
Kyle, last week
it was Revival. That one was not.
Last week I went first because I won. Kyle, I will turn the floor over to you. What do you have to say in your victory this week?
I'm a little surprised because of Appetite being such an iconic record for Guns N' Roses.
Check out Kyle speaking directly to the GNR fan base.
Please don't leave us.
Kyle giving it the old "don't at me, bro."
Music's Being Murdered By is definitely not anywhere near on a level of the iconicness of Appetite, but
yet.
Well, no. First of all,
30 years.
First of all, Michelle, I don't mean this in a shitty way, Michelle, but like, it's never going to be Music Being Murdered By. No, hold on. Let me qualify that. What I mean is, and you said it yourself, Appetite is a monster debut record, right? Like, you would never heard it. And with Eminem, it's like you expect that quality of seal, or a seal of quality. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I do accept him to be a seal like that.
Yeah. So with Eminem, it won't blow up and be this iconic thing, and that's kind of the tax you pay sometimes for being that good at what you do, you know. Like, for example, we are easy to point out the records that we don't like, you know, and then GNR just didn't play that game. They were like, well, if we just don't put out records, you just can't critique us. But I'm sorry, Kyle, I know you had more comments.
I will say too that, like, up until he released Music to Be Murdered By, everyone thought that he was just washed up and like he was kind of living in the shadow of his older stuff that is way better than his newer stuff was.
Yeah.
And like I said before, he tried with Kamikaze. It was kind of there. It was like getting there. And then he came back with this, and everyone was like, okay, he set the world record or whatever for, I don't remember specifically what the world record was, or the Guinness Book of World Record was for Godzilla. But he came back and showed everybody like, hey, I'm sober now, and I'm still just like I was before. So relax.
Yeah, which is something to accomplish because you hear that all the time. And actually, a good friend of mine and I were just doing a video chat last night, and we were talking about when that happens to an artist. Like, believe it or not, even though he almost completely destroyed his entire life through alcohol, there's a ton of Van Halen fans that are like, Eddie was a lot better when he was drunk. I wish Eddie would go back on the sauce. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you even? Yeah, why would you say that about someone? And with Eminem, the guy's sober, and it's clear in the lyrics of this record that he is thinking clearly. And I will say, I had this in my notes, but I didn't say it on the outside chance that Appetite was going to win. Between the two records, what's funny to me about these two albums is where Appetite's weakest moment for me is its lyrics, whereas the strongest point on the Eminem record is the lyrics. Now, I think Axl Rose has an incredible voice, and it's probably at the peak of its powers. No, he sang better on Use Your Illusion. But anyways, he sings fantastic on Appetite, but what he's singing oftentimes is lower than his bar. Whereas Eminem, for the greater majority of the record, he's punching at his usual weight. So,
yeah. And one of the other things that I like about that record is that he typically on much of his other work, he either produced the song himself or he works with like a close group of producers that produce most of the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
On this record, he used other outside producers, giving like lesser known people maybe a better opportunity because they're working with him, along with the artists who were on the album. Like, a lot of people up until that record came out had no idea who Young M.A. was.
Right.
A lot of Eminem fans had no idea who Juice WRLD was.
I was going to say, I feel like Michelle's like, I remain in a stance of not knowing who that is.
Yeah, well, he passed away now, but
No, Young M.A.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I know Juice WRLD passed away.
Yeah, so either way, like, he was scooping up these, what he considered to be talented people.
Yeah, trying to reach down and lend a hand down, pay it forward the way Dre did for him.
Yep.
Well, for my part, I'd like to say this is bullshit, and this is also the final episode of the Infectious Grove Podcast.
I don't pick your record 1 week.
Yeah, bonus. I own the recording equipment. I own the computer it's recorded on. I'm changing the passwords to everything.
No one's ever going to hear this episode.
No one, yeah. Well, they will, except it's going to go, Michelle, what's your final ruling? And you'll go, well, I picked Guns N' Roses.
Because Guns N' Roses is great.
Yeah, that's how it's going to go. So, but no, I feel like I sent my kid into a fight and he did better. So I'm proud of the record, and I'm glad that I'm really surprised that you didn't like the song Rocket Queen that closes out the record. Because for me, like I say, anything goes for me is the low point of the record, and so I can see the song before that blending in with it, but Rocket Queen just totally shifts gears for me. So we don't have to have a big discussion on it. I was just surprised that didn't, because that song starts so differently than the two before it, and then it shifts gears so hard in the middle that I was just surprised that it didn't perk you up. But that's on GNR,
I will
not
say
you.
that it was, so I put it on and I was, just looking at Instagram or scrolling through and just like listening, and then the record was over and I was like, what just happened? It was like it was like 3 songs of like no notes, like it was just like there, and it was I was like, wait, I was just listening to this, how is it over? And I realized 3 songs had played, and that's how I kind of was like, oh, it just, maybe that was just one long song.
Well, it's good that you didn't intently listen to the lyrics of Anything Goes, because they're stupid.
I thought you were gonna be like, it's a good thing you didn't listen to any lyrics.
No, and like I say, and to me that's the difference, and I'll probably get killed for this, but the difference between the two records is Eminem is a lot stronger lyrically on his record than GNR is on there. So for as many points as GNR could have attributed to it that are intangibles, like it being such a strong debut record, it being iconic, and so on and so forth, that's a big detractor to anyone who just listens to the record and puts those things aside, which you don't have holding you down.
Funny that you mentioned the whole lyrical aspect of things, because I didn't talk about that at all, but only because everyone expects Eminem to use his crazy wordplay and like all that kind of stuff is like, I felt like if I had mentioned that, it would have just been like being a dead horse.
Yeah, well, Dead Horse track 15 on Use Your Illusion 1. Another fantastic Guns N' Roses album. Yeah, in Eminem, I've always been all about, unless he's using his ridiculous accents, which thank God he hasn't used in quite a while. So other than that, I'm down with the guy. So overall, I'm sad to see Appetite for Destruction go, but I totally understand the reasoning. Next week,
what do we got up next week?
This is going to be interesting. Next week is Garth Brooks' second LP, No Fences. His first one being his self-titled LP, No Fences being the second one, which has at least 3 big singles on it that I can think of off the top of my head, versus Led Zeppelin's fourth album, which is aptly titled Led Zeppelin 4. And this is one of those ones that I don't think, Michelle, you would have listened to either of these records in their entirety before.
Nope.
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting
Garth Brooks,
listen.
as it's been famously known, where I fell asleep at his concert. So I mean, that's got a lot going for it right out the gate.
But you didn't fall asleep during a song from this album, so it's got that going for it. You
I
fell
guess
asleep
we'll
fell asleep during a song from his third album.
I will say that the next week will probably be really interesting because neither of those are my jam. So
yeah, it will be interesting. So it's going to be the lesser of two evils will win out next week. So
I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, me too. If nothing else, I'm hoping that you say that. Like you come out of it and you go, you know what? I didn't realize that I really like these. Both of these records a little bit more than I thought I did, and then this one more so than that one. That's my hope for that matchup. I will tell you, just going forward, there are some like Fleetwood Mac Rumors hasn't entered this yet. Purple Rain hasn't made its appearance yet. We have I'm trying to think. There's a Thriller hasn't made its appearance yet. There are some as much as next week's matchup looks like something that'll be easy for you to do, there are some weeks coming that when I say what the albums are that are matched up, you're going to cry on spot. Like you're not going to want to make a choice.
Damn it.
Yep. So things are about to get interesting. So we greatly appreciate everybody listening. Did you guys get all your thoughts in? Do I got anything else I need to hear from y'all?
Good to go.
Michelle, did you just do the opening track to Get a Grip?
I did.
Holy cow.
Could that have been better timed? I'm just saying.
No, I don't think so. Listen, y'all, once again, we greatly appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully we are giving you something to take your mind off of things. GNR community, just keep tagging me in the threads and I'll relay the message to Michelle. No, I won't give you any of her personal information and don't go looking for it. We greatly appreciate you guys listening. See y'all later.
Bye.